Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a Rescue Michigan live stream. Wasn't entirely planned for tonight, but I was talking about doing a like 3 streams a week, one for national stuff, one for geopolitics, and one for Michigan related things. And we didn't really do that last week, so I'm already behind. And I thought, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's try to get back on top of things. Things are going on in the political universe. And I am actually, the other thing I was doing tonight is testing to see what happens if I don't create a stream on Rumble. It does not create it for me, unfortunately, but let's see. Maybe this will help me get back on Rumble. If not, oh well, I'll just upload it later. No big deal. Just wanted to kind of catch up on some national news. Sylvia on YouTube, hello. Obviously, this is not entirely, this is entirely unannounced, and it's not even our usual time, so you're probably not going to too many live viewers tonight, but that's okay because we have a channel, and of course you can see all of our live streams on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, and on X. So a few things I want to talk about before we get into the big thing, which is I want to I think we're going to watch this announcement speech from RFK Jr.'s new running mate, Nicole Shanahan. People have been talking a lot about this being a really good thing for Trump, basically. There was a lot of speculation about who RFK Jr. would pick, and a lot of speculation, a lot of polls that were inconclusive about who RFK is going to take more votes away from. Will he take more votes away from Biden, or will he take more votes away from Trump? And obviously, he is a Democrat and a liberal, but he's been speaking the conservative message on a lot of issues, including things that used to be liberal issues but no longer are, like free speech and health freedom. But there was talk that he might, I think it was Aaron Rodgers was one of the rumored candidates. There's a couple others, but Nicole Shanahan she was married for, I think, a year to Sergey Brin, the CEO of Google. He's not the CEO. He's something at Google. Anyway, so she became a billionaire that way and has been in earlier parts of her life, and I don't know how much of it's true to this very day, but a left liberal who gave a lot of money to Joe Biden and to other Democrats over the years. So it is certainly perceived that she is going to bring his ticket towards the left and therefore take more votes from Biden than they would from Trump. Also, of course, being a billionaire, that's very good for RFK Jr.'s ballot access and, of course, everything else that a campaign needs. And I can tell you, if you have not been involved in the presidential campaign at the national level, you don't realize how hard ballot access is. It is insanely difficult in some states. And in other states, it's very easy. In Michigan, it's very, very, very easy. So if you're in Michigan and you don't know, you would think, how hard can ballot access be? But in some states, there are very strict time deadlines, very strict signature deadlines, and it takes a lot of money to get on the ballot. It was one of the big and completely unknown achievements of the Ron Paul presidential campaigns in 2008 and 2012 that he got on the ballot in all 50 states. And it's not any easier for an independent candidate in the general election either. So anyway, we're going to watch this because, I've heard a lot about her. I want to see her. I have not watched this video yet. We can watch it together. Folks in the chat, you are welcome to participate. In fact, let me also make sure I've got my Rumble stream pulled up so that if folks are watching on Rumble, they can comment as well. So I've got that pulled open. But first, a couple other things to talk about in the news. One of the things that has really gone under the radar in the national spotlight, but really shouldn't be, is the latest effort to destroy free speech on social media. Mark Ashley Price on Facebook. How you doing, Mark? Good to see you. Anyway, several months ago now, there was a bill. We talked about this on one of my streams called the Restrict Act, which was packaged as a TikTok ban. But when you actually read the text of the bill, what it said it was going to do was give the government the ability to shut down any website it claimed was serving a foreign interest. And this became a big news story, in particular because one of the people who was in the mass media that exposed this was Tucker Carlson. And when people like Thomas Massie and Senator Rand Paul were talking about this, Tucker got wind of it, and this became a thing, and this spread through Fox News. Jesse Waters very famously went after Lindsey Graham on one of his shows and said, Senator, you co-sponsored this bill. Is this really what you want to do? He's like, well, it actually doesn't sound good to me. And it gummed up the works, and the bill disappeared. That's called the Restrict Act. There's a new bill now This one, in fact, I have the bill number. It's HR 7541. It has a funny name: Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. That's the new version of the TikTok ban. And this one is actually really the same thing, but written to be even more misleading and insidious. It very explicitly says, yes, it's going to ban TikTok unless they divest from, unless the company that owns it, ByteDance, divests from it because it's owned by China or principally owned by China. Not clear exactly. I don't think it's entirely owned by China, but I think it's like 20%, but that's a principle. I don't know. At any rate, that's what the bill effectively says, but it says more than that. In fact, I want to pull the text up on the screen so you guys can see. Hold on. One moment. Brave tab. Here we go. Let me make this bigger. This is the text of the bill, HR 7521. To protect the national security of the United States from the threat posed by foreign adversary control applications such as TikTok and any successor or service or any other application or service developed or provided by ByteDance or an entity under the control of ByteDance Limited, which is interesting because it actually does a lot more than that. And the other thing interesting is, doesn't that sound like a bill of attainder to you guys? That thing the Constitution prohibits, where the government can just ban a company or put a writ of, just calling someone a criminal. That was like one of the reason that's in the Constitution is because the King of England did that. Sounds just kind of like that, doesn't it? The bill to get TikTok. But it basically, like usually in legislation, they'll go out of their way to avoid referring to things specifically. Like all over in Michigan law, if you're seeing that they're going to do something for Wayne County, a county with a population of more than X number of people, or if it's another county and less than Y number of people, and if it's located above the 38th parallel, and yada yada yada. That's usually how they do it. But in this case, they're coming right out. This is a bill to get TikTok. That's actually what they want to do, to make it seem like that's all this does. And here's where the legalese can get you. So again, if you've heard about this bill in the news, and by the way, this bill has already passed the House overwhelmingly. I think all of the members in Michigan voted for it. All the Republicans voted for it. Every single one of them. In the Energy and Commerce Committee, where the bill got a hearing, it was 50-0. They passed this in record time. In fact, let me see here. Where's the history of the bill? It's here someplace. Maybe it's in the summary. Passed the House on March 13th. Introduced in the House on March 5th. Reported in the House from committee less than a week later. So this bill, you're not seeing my drop-down menu, but what it's saying here on this little drop-down menu, introduced in the House March 5th. Reported from committee March 11th. I'm sure Tim Walberg, who serves on that committee, did a lot of due diligence. And then passed the House 2 days after that on March 13th. So it was in the House for all of 8 days for deliberation, because they really want to give the American people lots of time to figure out what the heck was going on. But anyway, this is the text of the bill. And here's the funny thing. If you read this part, now here's not talking about TikTok. It just says in the case of a foreign adversary controlled application. Well, what does that mean exactly? A foreign adversary controlled application. And here we go. There's a definition here. Controlled by a foreign adversary means, with respect to a covered company or other entity, that such company or other entity is A, a foreign person that is domiciled in, headquartered in, or has the principal place of business in, or is organized under the laws of a foreign adversary country. B, an entity with respect to which a foreign person or combination of foreign persons described in subparagraph A directly or indirectly owns at least a 20% stake, which I think is exactly what China owns in TikTok. And here's what the term covered company means: an entity that operates directly or indirectly a website, okay, get that? Not just an app, a website, an app, desktop or mobile, or augmented or immersive technology application that permits a user to generate a profile, has more than 1 million active monthly users. Well, that's going to be every social media network of any significance. And here's the important part: foreign adversary controlled application means TikTok. Anything determined to be controlled by a foreign adversary country, which of course is Russia, China, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also any company that is determined by the president to present a significant threat the national security of the United States. But here's the hold on, let me find it here. I skipped over it by mistake. There is an important question here of what exactly is meant by controlled. And it is, hold on. I'm going to just search for the word because I know what word I'm looking for. Here we go. A person subject to the direction or control of a foreign person. There it is. Controlled by a foreign adversary. Now, what does that mean? Subject to the direction. Is that term defined someplace else? No. Because here's the thing, folks. We live in an era of lawfare. So, here's a question for you. Elon Musk has, among other things, a factory in China. Does that mean he is subject to the direction of China? Well, maybe Merrick Garland will find out by demanding Elon divest from Twitter. Every single day, they say Donald Trump is controlled by Russia. So clearly subject to the direction of Russia. If Trump's policies are something Russia might like ending the war in Ukraine, well, then he's clearly subject to the direction of Russia. This is what they're trying to do with this, guys. That's what this is. You have to read this way, knowing that we have crazy zealots who will interpret the law as expansively as they possibly can. And by the way, this is not the way they have to do this either. There's all kinds of ways that they could have gone about doing this without putting in language like this. They know what they're doing when they write language like this. They know why they are trying to ram this thing through as fast as humanly possible. There's, like, by the way, a lot of other problems with this bill too, like, the free speech issues, because it's not just TikTok. It's also, like 5 million small businesses in America that actually have income streams through TikTok that would be affected by this. And people that, I'm not one of them. I don't broadcast on TikTok. I'm not streaming to TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. I've never used the dang thing. But some people do. And they use it for, as I'm doing right now, speaking. You can take away their rights. Anyway, this bill has passed the House already. It is in the Senate. And I know Campaign for Liberty is mobilizing people to contact the U.S. senators. This is a bipartisan thing, too. There's plenty of young people who tend liberal who are probably upset about this very much. Might be worth contacting your U.S. senators, despite the fact that they're Democrats. Because this is really all about, folks. This is about depriving you of free speech on the internet. That's what the name of this game. All right. Another thing I want to talk about in the news, of course, the big story in the past couple of days, Ronna Romney McDaniel hired and fired from MSDNC. That took a long time. Just took an outburst from some personalities on the channel. Apparently, she is now demanding her full 2-year salary in the contract. Good for her. Possibly suing for defamation. Okay. The hypocrisy, though, is pretty amazing because, they certainly had no problem with other people being hired straight out of partisan operative roles. Totally different from Jen Psaki being hired right out of her job at the White House for Joe Biden. Totally different from Simone Sanders, a Biden-Harris aide. Totally not at all like when John Brennan was hired by MSNBC from the CIA, or Nicole Wallace from who was a Bush Cheney spokesman. But of course, Nicole Wallace is the right kind of Republican. They're okay with having those kinds of Republicans in the mass media, which why wouldn't Ronna have become one? Like Michael Steele. Michael Steele was a former chair of the RNC. He was out bashing Trump and saying Trump should be put behind bars, I think just a couple of months ago on television. There's plenty of Republicans like that are perfectly tolerable on the networks. Like Joe Scarborough, former Republican congressman. Remember that? Anna Navarro, Jonah Goldberg, David Frum. So anyway, whatever. That's between Ronna and NBC, I guess. But it's just worth pointing out, again, there's no there's no level of contempt for the media that you can have that's adequate for how bad they are. Um, it's just unreal. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens to Rana, or maybe we won't. I don't care what happens to Rana, to be honest with you. But anyway, all right, let's watch this video. I have not seen this. I don't know what to expect. Oh, Mark Ashley Price, by the way, says, I don't really care about who RFK's running mate is in terms of who I was going to vote. Right. Yeah. Well, that's going to be a lot of people's opinions. But my question is, how will this affect Trump's race? Because other people will. You will have some voters who will say, you know what? I wouldn't vote Republican, but Joe Biden is odious to me. And I like the things that RFK and his running mate are saying. So let's go to that and let's see what Nicole Shanahan has to say. So here we go. I may pause this, but we'll see.
Hi, everybody. And thank you so much for being here today.
Let me know in the chat if you can't hear this.
To be here in Oakland. This city will always have a special place in my heart. You know, I grew up just a few miles from this very spot. My mother, who's standing right there with her phone up.
There's going to be some pablum before we really get started.
That's
the way that goes. This is about a 30-minute clip, guys, by the way.
My late father was an Irish and German American. I want to tell you a little bit about my childhood so you can understand the source of my politics and convictions. My mother's first job when she came to the United States in 1983 was as a live-in caretaker to an elderly woman here at Lake Merritt. By the time I was born, she worked as a dental office secretary. Okay, we can turn this down for a minute. This could be going on for a little while. On Rumble, Charlotte Cosmic says, we're talking about the TikTok ban. Is this a constitutional law or is it a violation of the First Amendment? So whatever the courts say it is. I'd say it's unconstitutional. Will the John Roberts court agree? I don't know. He was doing the best he could. I think of him when I see the statistics of the millions of Americans who are addicted, depressed, or suffering. This is one of the epidemics of our time. It affects nearly every American family. I wish my experience was unusual, but it's not. It has become part of my determination to do something for our country. Every time my dad lost his job, our family just couldn't cover expenses. Food, gas, clothing, upkeep. It adds up more than you have in this situation. I know a lot of Americans know exactly what that's like, to just be one misfortune away from disaster. I don't think we would have made it without food stamps and government help. My mom worked hard, but it wouldn't have been possible to keep it together without that help. As you probably know, I became very wealthy later on in life, but my roots in Oakland taught me many things I have never forgotten. That the purpose of wealth is to help those in need. That's what it's for. And I want to bring that back to politics too. That is the purpose of privilege. I went to St. Mary's High School, just a few miles from here. In my junior year, we have some St. Mary's Panthers here. In my junior year, I had another formative experience. And that set me up for this lifetime of political consciousness. I applied for a program to live with families in El Salvador. In praying with these families and helping them rebuild after the civil war there, I learned what war really is. I learned how it rips lives apart, it brutalizes children, how it visits unspeakable horror on the innocent. And I also learned the resilience of the human spirit, and its infinite capacity to heal, to forgive, and to restore. El Salvador is where I came to understand war, but more importantly is where I also came to understand peace. That is what inspired me to my first political action in high school. At the onset of the Iraq War, I became an anti-war activist. Yes. If I'm being honest, I didn't really know how to do it. I printed pamphlets and I led a walkout, and we went to our local radio station. But I knew in my bones then that violence begets more violence. I'd seen what that does to society, and I didn't want my country, the country I love so dearly, to be doing that in the world. Yeah. So these are two of my political convictions I hold today: to serve peace and to help those in poverty. Yeah.
So far, all of this is
So you
playing
can
towards
understand why I gravitated
base.
to the Democratic Party, because that was supposed to be the party of peace, the party of compassion. Many Democrats
Oh, here comes the turn.
still believe in those ideals, but unfortunately, as an institution, it has lost its way. There is only one anti-war candidate today, and you won't find him in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. He is an independent, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yes, yes, and it is his commitment to peace and to the welfare of hardworking people in America that draw me as a person of compassion to his candidacy. Yes. As recently as a year ago, I really didn't think much of Bobby Kennedy because I didn't know much about him. All I had was a mainstream media narrative that was effectively telling me horrible, disparaging things. But then a friend who's here today pulled me aside and she said, "Nicole, please do me a favor. Just listen to an interview with Bobby Kennedy, just one." So I did. And then I listened to another one and then another one, and I recognized that the person who I was seeing in these interviews was the exact opposite of the media slander of his character. I saw a person of intelligence, of compassion, and of reason. I saw a fellow lawyer who had committed himself to finding the truth and fighting for the environment and for people. I discovered a person who speaks out on issues that, even though they are critically important to human health and welfare, are consistently ignored by our government. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope for our democracy again. We can do this. It's possible. One of those issues also happens to be a passion of mine and a focus of my philanthropic work: chronic disease. I got into it through my own journey of reproductive health, followed by a steep learning curve for caring for my daughter, who has an autism diagnosis. In that journey, I discovered that women's fertility is in precipitous decline around the world. We are facing a crisis in reproductive health that is embedded in the larger epidemic of chronic disease. Because it has been so personal for me and my daughter, I got deep into the research and consulted some of the best scientists and doctors. Let me tell you what I found.
It's weirder than talking about reproductive health
There
and not
are
talking about
three
killing
main
babies.
causes. One is the toxic substances in our environment, like endocrine disrupting chemicals in our food, water, and soil, like the pesticide residues, the industrial pollutants, the microplastics, the PFAs, the food additives, and the forever chemicals that have contaminated nearly every human cell. Yes, and it makes you angry to hear this. It makes me angry to say it because we shouldn't be here right now. Second is electromagnetic pollution. You don't hear politicians talking much about that either, but it is something we need to look at. As Bobby says, we need to investigate every possible cause of chronic disease epidemic that is devouring our nation from the inside. Third, I'm sorry to say, is our medications. Pharmaceutical medicine has its place, but no single safety study can assess the cumulative impact of one prescription on top of another prescription and one shot on top of another shot on top of another shot throughout the course of childhood. We just don't do that study right now, and we ought to. We can, and we will. Conditions like autism used to be 1 in 10,000. Now here in the state of California, it is 1 in 22. 1 in 22 children affected. Allergies, obesity, anxiety, depression, our children are not well. Our people are not well, and our country will not be well for very much longer if we don't heed this desperate call for attention. I've spoken to our government agencies. Trust me, I've tried. I've spoken to senators, I've spoken to governors. They all know something is wrong, but none of them take any action. There is only one candidate I have met for president who takes the chronic disease epidemic seriously. It is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I will be his ally in making our nation healthy again. Yes. Yes. It is not about a new pill or, quote, finding the cure. We know the cure is cleaning up our environment and providing the basic public goods that are the foundational conditions for health and healing. It is about a shift in our priorities. It is about compassion. Chronic disease, addiction, poverty, depression, this is where Americans are hurting the most. It is time for politicians to listen. So here is how the Kennedy-Shanahan ticket is going to end the chronic disease epidemic. While Bobby is focused on ending the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, I am going to assemble the best technologists and scientists in the world, and we will use the latest in AI and computation and examine the health records databases of our nation and those other nations who are also on a quest to solve chronic disease. We will find the answers.
Interesting pitch.
We will find the answers to our most pressing health concerns within weeks, not decades. We can, if we have access to those databases. It is time to move out of the dark ages of medicine. We can solve the mysteries guarded by corporate influence. We can move from Band-Aid solutions, and we can end this chronic disease epidemic once and for all. I believe it. You know, my sense is that most American moms and dads already know the truth of the matter, and it's just long overdue that the duty of care owed to the American family is actually given. We can find the answers conclusively. You know, I have a background in tech, so I tend to think in terms of data. In my tech days, I developed AI-powered software to automate affordable legal services. Well, guess what? The CDC and research institutions have the data we need. We can apply technology to figure out environmental factors. We can figure out what's making us sick. We just have to ask the right questions, do the right research, and apply the right tools. We have to rid science of the corporate bias that contaminates it today. Then we put this thing into reverse. So actually, the first issue that I applied my tech background to was criminal justice.
All right, I'll pause it here since she's changing the subject now, but um, I think that sounds like a little bit of a far-fetched promise there to say we're gonna cure chronic diseases, we're gonna expose the truth that nobody else could. You know, but it's an interesting pitch to Democrats because there is a big constituency of Democrats that are not fans of big pharma, and all the Democrat Party has been telling them for the last 4 years is trust big pharma, trust big pharma, trust Pfizer, love all the drug companies, take the pills. And there's a lot of Democrats who are going, why are we all sick? I thought Obamacare was supposed to make us healthy. Why are we still sick? You know, this is an interesting pitch. And clearly, I mean, there are going to be some, I don't want to say Republicans, although there will be some, but I think more to the libertarians who are interested in that kind of thing that make that's, and let me be clear. A lot of people care about their health and a lot of people distrust big pharma. But there's a certain issue that's dear to each of us in our hearts. And it's different for everybody. For some Republicans, abortion is their number one issue, period. For some people, it's gun rights. For some people, like Ann Coulter, it's the border. For some people, it's not very many, it's fiscal policy. For some people, it's health freedom. You know, the lockdowns and vaccine mandates were a big thing for a lot of us. These days, a lot of Republicans are all about election fraud. We all have our hot button issues. That's the thing that we have. And talking about big pharma and health problems is a hot button issue for a lot of people, but especially for a lot of Democrats. So far everything she said has been things that will damage the Biden administration badly because and I've seen this in RFK Jr. speeches too, talking about BlackRock buying up the world. And RFK was talking about this health stuff a lot too. They are appealing to a constituency of Democrats and be like, these two are saying the same thing. The things that we never hear from Democrats anymore. This has real potential here. Let's let her continue. She's going to talk about criminal justice now. I expect this is going to be the things that are like nails on a chalkboard to some people watching. By the way, I will spare identifying the name of this person, but somebody says Soros Shanahan, citation needed, you must be illegal immigrant to come here and rob American taxpayers. Well, Nicole Shanahan was born in the United States. Her father was an American of German-Irish descent, so wrong. But anyway, let's hear what she says next.
It was across the bay in San Francisco where the district attorney's office needed help examining thousands of police records thought to contain evidence of racial bias, wrongful arrest, and patterns of prejudice. I put together a team of computer scientists to develop a computational method to collate these records and design a method for analysis. But what I really learned through this was the sorry state of criminal justice in our country. It isn't just about policing. It is about the school to prison pipeline. It is about a broken and dismally functioning infrastructure.
Now.
It is about recidivism that we have not taken the right approach to. How do we make our systems a system of rehabilitation and not punishment? These questions don't have easy answers. I know this is hard. This is very hard, but they are the right questions to be asked, and there's only one candidate asking them, and it's Bobby Kennedy.
I don't think so, but okay.
And I'm going to mention one more issue close to my heart. This has to do with climate.
Oh boy.
My interest in health and solving climate issues has led me to the realm of agriculture. I realize that a nation's health comes down to its soil and the people who work it. Hell yeah. Healthy soil is the foundation of healthy food. It is the foundation of a healthy ecosystem, and it is our answer to the climate crisis. It is the foundation of healthy economy. But what politician besides Bobby Kennedy do you ever hear talking about soil? None. I've produced 2 films on the issue. Common Ground is the latest. We've got some Common Ground and Kiss the Ground people here. Thank you guys for coming out today. I've talked to Congress people and senators, but all I've gotten are vague promises that never amount to real change. Republicans and Democrats alike have fallen under the sway of big agrochemical companies and food conglomerates. They might invoke the ideal of the family farm, but they have betrayed it again and again. So I am entering myself. I know I'm not a politician until just now, but I am entering myself to do this work and to highlight this need, because guess what? I've met some of the most innovative American farmers. Their methods rebuild soil, sequester carbon, recharge aquifers, and revitalize the economy. And you know what? We don't have to force anyone to do anything or to imitate them. All we have to do is change our system of regulation and subsidy to support those methods. We can no longer support extractive corporate agriculture. I am so hopeful for this. I hope you all understand now what has brought me into politics, hasn't it? And what, in this moment, I am leaving the Democratic Party. And I want to say 2 things about that.
Hashtag walk away.
Even though I am leaving the party, I believe I am taking the best ideals and impulses with me. The Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of compassion. It is supposed to be the party of diplomacy and science. It is supposed to be the party of civil liberties and free speech. And most importantly, the party of the middle class and the American dream.
It was never any of those things, but okay. That's what you wish it was.
While I know many Democrats still abide by those values,
It's the party of the bleeding heart. That's what it was.
And I've been in touch with many people in the Democratic Party. I do believe they've lost their way in their leadership. I worry for the party's overwhelming interest in elitism, celebrity, and winning at all costs. And I worry that they do it even if that means turning a blind eye on the issues that they all know to be true. I know this because I've been in those circles for the last 8 years, and I have grown increasingly tired of it.
Eight years. Well,
it wasn't until I met Bobby and the people supporting him that I felt any hope in the outcome of this election. As I've re-examined my Democratic Party assumptions, I have seen conservative voters with new eyes too. I have met farmers, I have met hunters who are some of the most staunch conservationists I've ever met, who understand ecosystems better than most.
Shout outs to conservatives.
I have met mothers protecting their children who are searching every possible avenue for their health. And yet the Republican Party, like the Democratic, is letting them down because the actions of the party are diverting from the values that actually support individual freedom.
There won't be one, Tim, but a man can dream.
In fact, the very failure of both parties to do their job to protect their founding values has contributed to the decline of this country in my lifetime. Maybe that's why I see so many Republicans disillusioned with their party as I become disillusioned with mine. If you are one of those disillusioned Republicans, I welcome you to join me, a disillusioned Democrat, in this movement to unify and heal America. This independent movement comes at a time of extreme division in America that threatens to tear this country apart. Yes, let's fix it. It is time for a realignment. It is time, as Bobby Kennedy says, to focus on our unifying values rather than our divisions. And so if anyone is listening who never considered an independent ticket, I want to extend the same invitation to you that my friend did to me last year. Please listen to Bobby Kennedy in his own words. Take a look at his vision for America. It is a vision that I share too, as I spend the next 7 months of my life getting him on each and every ballot in this country.
Shots fired. Money coming.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. The vision we share is a vision of national healing. It is an America that leads the world no longer through force of arms, but through the power of example. It is an America that wages peace through diplomacy. It is an America that had become the sickest industrialized country on the earth and turned it around. We're gonna turn it around. It is an America where everyone who works hard can afford a decent life. It is an America where people of all races receive fair and equal treatment under the law. It is an America whose freedoms are the envy of the world. It is an America with honest and transparent government institutions. Can you imagine a country whose government doesn't lie to you?
I think they will too, Mark.
People talk about my age. It's true. I will be the youngest vice president in American history. Let me tell you why so many of us young people have turned away from politics. It's because we lost hope that change would ever come from inside the system. After all, which party wins with promises of hope and change or to drain the swamp? Things proceed as usual, declining bit by bit each passing year. So that's
Fair
the
point.
reason. But the other reason is that we can't stand the phoniness anymore. We can't stand the lies. We can't stand the inauthenticity. And that's why Bobby Kennedy leads in all the polls among young people. We are hearing our voice in his. So I come to you today as a former Democrat. I come to you as a woman not quite 40. I come to you as someone who has experienced sickness and health and poverty and wealth. And I come to you as a mother. You know, most of the philanthropists I work with are women, other mothers. And initially, it was a mother who's here today who reached out to inspire support in this campaign. I never thought in
By
a
the way,
million years
I'm pretty
I would
sure
be
that
up
was.
here running
I'm pretty sure that as a mother was a slight at Kamala, because I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris has no kids. I think that's what that was right there.
for vice president. No. No. But what I I am doing is I'm joining the millions of mothers out there who support this candidacy. They are Republicans and Democrats and independents. They read the labels at the supermarkets and wonder how to keep their kids healthy. They watch in anguish, many of them, when their children suffer from chronic disease. They cry silently as their teenagers deal with depression, anxiety, and addiction. They do their best to hold it together, and they do because they're freaking strong. They're my heroes. These moms, they're my heroes. They're the moms trying to make a normal life for their children in a world that has gone crazy. As a mother myself who knows the firsthand challenges of raising a child with special needs, I promise to you to make this world a little less crazy. I will work with Bobby Kennedy to make America once again a country of peace, a country of compassion, a country that is prosperous and free. And this won't happen overnight, but I have seen miracles that the human spirit can accomplish. I have seen its resilience. And most importantly, I have seen its capacity to heal. And what is possible for the human being is also possible for our nation. So please, join me and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the healing of America. We've got this. We're gonna do this.
All right, so there you go. That was the speech. That was Nicole Shanahan. So some thoughts about this. Charlotte Cosmic says Kamala Harris has a daughter. Okay, so I was wrong about that. Our Wikipedia page doesn't mention that. Usually they do, but anyway, overall thoughts. I mean, obviously there are things she said that I completely disagree with, but there was a lot there, and there's a lot that her and RFK have both talked about. Health freedom being a big thing. The foreign policy thing. I mean, I don't agree with everything that RFK says about foreign policy for a certainty. But one thing that came across very much in her speech and in his too are authenticity, and that's something that to a lot of Democrats are not completely brainwashed, and that are able to hear and compare RFK and Shanahan to Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, it's like night and day. It's like sincerity and intelligence too. And this is something that I think there may be some Republicans that are going to cross over to vote for them in the general, but I think much more so Democrats. And I think between her and some other candidates that RFK might have picked, this is a very it portends very well for Donald Trump in the general election. And I'd also say too, if for some reason I can't vote for Donald Trump in November, like some fucking court tells me I can't and throw him off the ballot, or God forbid something happens in between now and November, and the choice between Joe Biden and say Nikki Haley, I'm voting RFK and Shanahan for sure. And that's why, but failing that, this is the story on Fox News. Democrat campaign call reveals panic mode over RFK Jr.'s White House bid, scramble to save Biden re-election hopes. There's a quote from, among other people, Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow, who all fretted that Kennedy would likely ruin any chance of Biden being reelected. And here's here's this guy whining about RFK being a spoiler. And McMorrow says, this is how she reads him, how horrifying this campaign is and what it really means on the ground for Michigan. That means our election chances. She just says flat out, him being in the race means that there is a greater likelihood that Donald Trump will become president again. Notice she doesn't say anything about Nicole Shanahan. She just talks about RFK. And then there's all the usual name calling and BSing. And you've got, I think, McMorrow's down here talking about, here's the quote from McMorrow. We cannot afford to let Donald Trump be back in the White House, which was going to happen if people don't see RFK for what he actually is, which is Donald Trump with a Kennedy name slapped on him, which is an insult to, I mean, I would say to both of the candidates, frankly. RFK and Donald Trump are very distinctive in how they campaign and what their messages are. And in a lot of ways, I have to say, I mean, RFK's message is, in a lot of ways, refreshing. You don't hear Trump campaigning on the things that we just heard from Nicole Shanahan talking about chronic illness and the well-founded suspicion people have that all the chemicals and everything are a big part of all that. So, and again, I'm not saying I agree with her solutions. I clearly don't, and I wouldn't. But that they're tapping into something that's going to appeal to a lot of people, and and again, all this is name calling. It's all about being a spoiler, and it's all about conspiracy theories and vaccines. So some Democrat accuses Kennedy, and it's funny, the media never says without evidence. Whenever they quote Trump on anything, it's Trump says without evidence, blah 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 blah. Here, Davis without evidence, but they don't say it. I know it's Fox News, but it wouldn't matter if it was any other source. Went on to accuse Kennedy of deliberately targeting black people with dangerous lies and conspiracy theories about vaccines. Were they lies? Were they only theories? And claimed that any suggestion he was an ally of the black community was frankly outrageous and it's offensive. I think it's pretty offensive. Biden calls himself an ally of the black community personally. But what do I know? I'm not a Democrat operative. So there you go. Overall, a fine development for Trump, who also has a fine development in that recent merger that just happened that gave his campaign a cash infusion. So all of a sudden, yeah, see, Sylvia on YouTube says she is right about big ag and big pharma. Yes, and that's, yeah, you don't hear Trump talk about big ag, big pharma, or for that matter, big banking. These are points that are I think neglecting his campaign messages at his own peril. But maybe there's certain people that don't want him talking about those things. Charlotte says never will happen. Trump getting kicked off ballot. We talked about this on Sunday stream. It doesn't seem like it could happen. But if enough Republicans keep resigning from the House of Representatives, they could pass something pretty odious. It would only take a couple corrupt judges to put Trump in a world of pain. Let's just put it that way. So I'm optimistic this is going to happen, but I'd said for sure there was no way their Democrats were going to try to get Trump thrown off the ballot. I was wrong about that. There's nothing they won't try to do. And they nearly got to it too. Took the U.S. Supreme Court. Awful. And of course, the lawfare won't stop. But all right. I think that is going to do it for us for tonight. Thank you guys for joining me. We will, of course, have our regular weekly live stream. No, we won't. Sunday's Easter. We will have it some other time. I'll let you know. Hopefully with more advance notice. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate it. As always, thanks for all you guys do for Liberty. By the way, we are monetized on YouTube now, which is, I'm sure, like pennies, but we are. And I just saw a post from Elon Musk saying that if enough people subscribe on our X channel, we get premium features for free, which I never paid for the premium features because one of the premium features was two-factor authentication, which I don't want. And I never got an answer as to whether or not that would be mandatory, but there are benefits to that kind of stuff. So if you like this content, remember to like the videos. And if you're not already, subscribe to it, share it. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, all that stuff helps the channels grow. So as always, thanks for all you guys do for Liberty. And until next time, when we talk about more Michigan related stuff, peace out.